I'm the Figure Dude, and on today's Work in Progress Wednesday, we're going to be making customs of both Edge and Christian. Without further ado, let's talk about some figures. Dude. Welcome back. Like I said, today I am working on Edge and Christian, and while they have been together for many things, the customs that I'm working on of them today are from very different eras. So we're going to be working on Young Attitude era Christian. It's going to be Invasion era, so still tail end of the Attitude era there, kind of into the early Ruthless Aggression era. There's always like that transition year or two between all the like new gen Attitude, Ruthless Aggression. Like there's always that like little bit in there where it's kind of switching, and that's kind of where the Invasion was, and that's the look that I'm going for with this Christian figure. I don't know if this is an exact attire that he wore. It really was a bunch of spare parts and me just wanting to make this look for Christian. So for a while after him and Edge split, he was wearing a singlet with his pants instead of the shirt. And I remember him having a feud, and then I remember him, I think it was at the Rebellion pay-per-view, which is like the UK only, I think it was like non-canon essentially when they would do overseas pay-per-views. And he fought Edge in a cage match, and I want to say he wore a singlet then, but for the longest time, like, that is the look I thought of with Edge, or with Christian, excuse me, even though that wasn't something that was that common. But I wanted to do that, and I had kind of done it before, which is why we mostly have it here. But I'm going to be cleaning up the singlet. The paint, you can see, is not very good on there. I did get this head sculpt on there, and then I did these decals. Look how awful that is. Just beat the life out of those things. So gonna be getting rid of those and redoing them. So I did order some new ones, and you can see these are much larger too, so I think that's gonna look a lot better. The size difference itself is gonna make a big difference, but I think that's gonna look real nice. And then the Edge here is gonna be at his tail end, at the tail end of his time in WWE, his last run. And I was trying to look online for this attire specifically, and you can see here it's got the hockey mask, kind of another Toronto inspired look, Canada inspired look. But I did find one picture of him wrestling Austin Theory in this attire, and I was thinking he had white kick pads, but they were red, so I will be swapping those out with this pair and painting them red and saving these white ones. But then this was his Legends Chase figure. I got it off eBay pretty cheap. The knee pads are going to be painted white on the front, and then the rest will be red. And then we'll have the tights design. So I think these are going to look pretty sweet. Like I said, different eras for Edge and Christian, but it's always fitting to do an episode together with those two. So let's get to it. Alright, so first things first here, I'm going to just get all the white that I need to on the Edge here. So I'm going to paint the knee pads white, and then I'm also going to, with the kick pads, instead of having the white kick pads, I'm going to use just an extra pair of black, and then I'm going to paint them white because I didn't realize just the kick pad portion on front is white, and then the rest was red. So I'm going to paint it all white, and then I'll cover, obviously you'll paint the rest of it red where it needs to be, and then just leave that front kick pad part white. It also, the way his kick pads are, there's a little bit of red between the top and his knee pad, so the portion of the boot that is red, I'll just leave it, even if it's not perfectly, like there could be a little more height to the white, but I'll leave it like that so it's a nice clean cut off. And that's a very minor detail, so it doesn't bother me that much. But prep wise, that was really all we had to do for Edge, and then placing the decals. So with the decals, the one thing about kick pad decals is that in actual life, sometimes they go on to the foot a little bit, which kind of is the case with this Edge. So if I would have painted up the white a little bit higher, I would have had a little more space. Otherwise, I could have tried to push it down a little and place some of it on the boot, but I didn't really want to do that. It's just, I don't love that look. It might look better with the pinless kick pads just because there's not a gap between, but that's for another day. Then the thigh decals, they're big and I really like them. They're sized correctly. But the white just doesn't pop as much as the painted white, obviously. So it doesn't bother me, but I don't know if I would like go back and paint white and then come back and touch it up with red around the edges next time. But that's, again, a minor thing. With the Christian figure, we're just going to do the white on the edge here, touch it up a little bit. Like I said, I did this a long time ago, and I've gotten significantly better just as far as my skill and there's the tools I have available. So I'm going to touch up the white, touch up the black where I need to. A lot of the stuff up here is going to be covered up by the hair on the head sculpt anyway, but I'll still touch it up a little bit with some white and then a little bit of the black just to get the edges. And then we just have the decals to do on him, which are also very easy. They're sized up from the first round I did, and I'm significantly better than the first time I applied decals. Alrighty, so wrapping things up here, I'll start off just looking at Ed. So the red parts on it did make it really easy. Obviously, we only had to paint the white on the boots and the knee pads, so it was clean, it was simple, but like I mentioned, the white from the Ghost White decal doesn't pop as much as painting the white, which I knew, but the contrast does bother me a little bit. Next time, like, I might paint white underneath and then touch it up on the edge with red. If I did it again, I don't know if I'm going to do this attire, but I'll just keep it in mind if I do use the Ghost White decals again. If I'm not using white with a figure, it's not really a big deal. But since it's all white, it does stick out to me. I also realized I left the white off of the elbow pads. On the back of the elbow pads, he should have white on that little circle there, but I always go back and touch things up. I realize I forget some details once I'm like in it and just focus on finishing a custom sometimes, so not a huge deal. That's an easy thing to go back and fix up. I do really like the AEW head sculpt. I think they did the best short hair. I do not like Mattel's short hair edge they did. The hair might be more accurate for that instance, but it just looks floofy. I really like this Jazzwares one. I also think just this torso is a better choice for Edge than the Dane O'Brien one that Mattel gave him. Which, again, with the formula, I really like the SummerSlam Elite Edge formula they gave him as far as the legs go, with the longer, skinnier legs and then boots. If you look at his attires, I guess in some of the newer ones, the kick pad mold is a little bit more accurate, but he did have shorter, like, boots that had covers over them as opposed to long kick pads. That wasn't going to be cost efficient to do, so I have no issue using this. Just a minor thing. And then with the Christian figure, I'm really happy with it. Redoing it, touching it up, it looks much better than it did the first time around, and I really didn't put a lot of effort into it. It wasn't coming along well when I started it, and then I just kind of said I'll get back around to it, and that was a long time ago. So finally getting back around to it with the resized decals, I think look much better. Obviously they look much cleaner. They're not all chipped on the edge. I think I just let those decals sit for too long, so they looked rough. But I do want to look around for a Jack's head sculpt. I think this is a nice head sculpt, but I wish he had more of a like, I guess, like a heel kind of look on him. I just think of the, is it 20-second pose that him and that Christian and Edge used to do, and I want something a little more serious. So I'm gonna look around, see what Jack's head sculpts I can find, and then probably end up repainting it. But all in all, for what I was going for today, I am happy with. Maybe if I did it again, I would paint the torso so that it's just a little cleaner around the singlet, because sometimes with these singlet mold, there'll be some paint that bleeds off the actual singlet part, and unless I'm going to paint over it or acetone like the whole top,
it's going to have that, and it's not going to be perfect, but again, for what I was going for today, I'm very happy with, and overall, I'm happy with my Edge and Christian here. But that is going to be it for today. If you did stick around through today's Work in Progress Wednesday, I appreciate it very much. If you want to see more customs, hauls, collection updates on the channel, please consider subscribing. And remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy more action figures. Figure Dude out.